Somebody told me that despite the fact that he knows I speak against the churches in Nigeria, I criticize the men of God. But as you look at the side of the Catholic Church, he showed me a video where a man was proving that the first church, the Catholic and the Anglicans, Pentecost, and the Methodists, who first established in Nigeria, did not destroy our tradition. And if to today the evidence are there that even the Catholic Church are still practicing traditional days in their church, that these things we see today that is destroying, that destroyed our tradition, Igbo men are patriotic and whatever, feminist and bringing all those new ideology, equality. He said they are being brought in by the Pentecostal. I quite agree. Because after watching the video of the Catholic Church visiting of Tinubu, it will make sense that even if you want to argue, you understand where the Catholic Church or the Orthodox churches stand in the affairs of this country. Yes, all the time we are seeing Adeboye, his own is to speak on behalf of the presidency, not telling the president the truth, coming to defend and lie about the situation. Even though we have one or two radicals that will occasionally want to speak, but the Pentecostal, the PFN, are not doing enough. Even the CAN as a body are not doing enough. But watching the video of the Catholic priest, what they stand for, how they want to, tell the president to the power in a respective way, visit him in office and tell him publicly these things are what is going on, shows that these people truly want to see the people moving forward. I've said it in a time past that only Adeboye can make Nigeria have steady light. I'm using it as an example. Even only Adeboye can protest for insecurity to stop. If all of us gather in the front of National Assembly here in Abuja to protest for insecurity, after 2-3 days, just like what happened to the NDC people when they're protesting about INEC electoral reforms, the government of the day will hijack it, bring Aboru, to tear gas to dispel them. But I'm telling you, only Adeboye sit down in front of National Assembly. Only him sit down there, carry brackets. If they did not stop insecurity, I will not live here. If it's gonna take 1 year, 2 years, I don't care. If they did not arrest all the Fulani, stop insecurity, I will not leave this seat. Just make Blackers put it in front of you. Only him. Because I keep telling you people that the truth that the adage say that a tree cannot make a forest is for the non-living thing. But in case of a man, one man can make a change. If you understand the true application of that statement, one man can make a change. If only Adeboye, I'm using him as an example, at his age, put a canopy, put a chair, pull banners around him that represent whatever he wants to say. Let's even say not security but light. I will sit down here until there are steady light in 774 local governments in Nigeria. Whether the government is going to take them 2 years or 3 years, if I not die under this canopy, I not die on time. I'm going to sit here 4 years, 5 years until they fix. I'm going to protest. The whole world will know that I sat here to protest for steady light to be in this country. I'm telling you, the government will sit up. Nobody will arrest him. Nobody will shoot him. Nobody will throw tear gas. And every day, people of his members will be bringing food to him to sit down there. And I can tell you, only him can put a pressure on the government and the system can change. Only him can do that. A man can make a change. Single. This is not animal kingdom. This is not plant. We're not talking of plant and the animals. We are talking of human being. Single person can make a change by his decisions. But you see, these guys are not ready to do that as far as you are concerned. And I keep telling you there are two things involved. If he knows this, but doesn't want to do it, it means that you are still following a wrong person. And if at this age his brain does not comprehend this information, it still means you are following an ignorant man. You don't know who you are following person who no get sense. Am I insulting him? No, but I'm telling you the state. If maybe you say, maybe not because I made the idea come to at this stage in life, the man does not know that only him can make a change and put pressure. And he doesn't know it. You that is following him is still following a wrong person. But if at this stage he knows this thing, that he has this ability, but refuse to do it, you are still following a wrong man, because a man that knows he can change the country but keep telling you, let us pray, the government is not doing anything wrong, is also a wrong person to follow. He's deceiving you. So I know what I'm saying. But if you watch the next video I'm going to post about the Catholic priest, you will now understand that these ones are the ones who truly want you to move on. Now, if you notice, they are not the ones staging miracle. The Catholic priests are not the one coming out to say, we perform this miracle, apart from one or two like Father Mbaka them. And you know, those ones are not the core Catholic priests. That's why they are not bishop or the canons. That's why they have their different ministry. But if you look at the way the Catholic conduct their religion, you understand that these guys want the way. I know they still collect tithe and do this and do that, but yet we are still talking about people who show concern about the state of the nation. Is the Catholic, the Orthodox churches. This is what I'm talking about. If all of them are doing this, we'll not have issues. Watch the next video and see what I'm telling you about. I'm out of here, John.
We urge you to encourage elected political office holders who are members of your party, governors, members of the National Assembly, local government chairmen, to ensure that a genuine level playing field is maintained and that focus is placed on making everyone see that the rules and processes are fair to all and respected by all. As a man who risked so much in the struggle for the return of democratic rule in the dark days of military dictatorship, your greatest legacy would be the strengthening of our democratic institutions. Furthermore, there have been growing concerns about the electoral processes. We note the efforts being made to ensure that the elections are free, fair, and credible. It is our hope that you be on the forefront in demanding that the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, delivers credible elections to ensure that Nigeria is set on the path of national development and integrity. This ought to start with making voters' cards easily available to all eligible voters and end with election results that reflect the true choice of Nigerians. Adequate and timely funding of INEC is required to ensure that the agency inspires the confidence of citizens. We urge that the conduct of the political class should be in tone with the voices we lift to God in prayer. Mr. President, we congratulate you for the recent successful release of the kidnapped school children and their teachers in Oyo State. The arrest of some of the kidnappers and their speedy prosecution is one of the few positive indicators of what a willing government and its agencies could do to protect the life and property of citizens. We commend you for this and for other such successes in recent times. Finally, we believe that the problems and burdens of our nation require sincere commitment to good governance for the common good, to the glory of God. We continue to pray for our dear country and I appeal to you to take seriously our pleas for greater collaboration between the church and the state for the overall well-being of our people. Number 9, 2 particular requests. Mr. President, we respectfully place 2 specific requests before Your Excellency. First, we ask that Your Excellency give favorable consideration to the request on the return of mission schools to their original proprietors. We recall that this matter was raised during our meeting with you last year, and we remain hopeful that your government will take the necessary steps towards its implementation. Second, in the light of the Supreme Court judgment of 10 February 2026, affirming the constitutional right of Muslim students at Rivers State University to freedom of religion and worship, we respectfully request that Your Excellency direct the appropriate ministries, departments, and agencies of government to ensure that this same constitutional principle is faithfully implemented throughout the Federation. Once again, we thank you very sincerely for granting us this audience. We pray that the Almighty and merciful God may grant you the wisdom and strength to lead our nation and all its citizens towards that greatness that God has destined for us. Thank you so very much, Mr. President.
To address your points, I've listened carefully. Most importantly, your key area is security or quality of life. I can tell you categorically, now with sincerity, that the country has been placed on sand footing. Sand footing. The economy has recovered. The alarm for bankruptcy, the dark tunnel of uncertainty that we entered into when I came in has changed. The spirit of the people and the economic tunnel that we've been passing through is now clearer. The economy is recovered and safe from bankruptcy. Yes, I always say, because of my background, the profession, and the belief that I inherit the asset and liability of my predecessor. I so did. And I've been running with it. But this government has stabilized and there's prosperity on the horizon. The quality of life is improving. Yes, before I was born, there was one guy in this country. And I have no control of the population development of Nigeria, trajectory. And that is why you have membership in your various faiths and churches, to give hope to people and give commitment to humanity and the true sense of it. Our founding fathers did their best. They left us a nation, and we owe it to our generations yet unborn to build a nation of unity, stability, and prosperity for the future. To educate our people. Yes, none of your children in the university today, and I will say all of them are your children, your Reverend Fathers. You can't say 4 years course is not 4 years. ASU is not on strike. They are not bringing agony to your homes. Is that not an answer to our prayers? To me, that's an answer. The security situation is what it is. We don't have another country but here, this Nigeria. And we revert to our national anthem. In this complexity, diversity, we shall thrive, live, rejoice, and be good to all of us as humanity. And that is what we're doing. Yes, I've seen that the challenges are there. I inherited it. I didn't run away. I asked for this job, and I'm in it. All is fair in politics, and it's equal opportunity. INEC, you mentioned, are neutral. They've never intimidated anybody. If political opponents are crying wolves, maybe they are afraid of their own shadows and the uncertainty in the companies they keep. Not me. But to me, I return all the mission schools as the governor of Lagos State. One of you, Cardinal Koge, and is alive to testify to that, happened to be one of her best friends that I have. But the schools are in the states. Preach to them. The governors of your states, they do the job. There's no need for constitutional amendment for that. That is a part of democracy. Choice. And the Land Use Act is there to give you the opportunity to build more schools. To me, I believe in what you believe, the fact that we should all embrace education to get out of poverty. But we are breaking the shackle of ignorance. Nel Fund is doing wonders to our children. They are even earning stipend while they are in the universities. And I've approved your various requests of new universities and others. And National University Commission, we have to take the statistics of the admissions that they have and the investment required to build new universities before we start to enlarge the course. It's a question of demand and what is necessary for the society. But if you don't have the population to establish the institution, we shouldn't just leave the door open to her. And we look at that. The security, I go back to that. I've just approved the expansion of the Nigerian Army and the armed forces. You know, I don't run away from what I inherited. I inherited the challenges. Am I doing something about it? Yes. I can tell you I'm doing something about it. And there will be resources to equip them, build new barracks, build stations, arm them, and defeat terrorism. And it should go as part of your sermons. We all must fight terrorism together. We have that responsibility to our nation and to our society. And I won't deviate from our national anthem. Diversity is the backbone of our prosperity and the future stability of this country. I thank all of you for listening. Thank you very much.
In reaction.
I was not surprised that he was not looking very happy. Not even his colleagues who were there. We knew that
right.
This is different from the kind of statements that our president keeps
Right.
receiving from all kinds of people. And that is one of the things that worries us, that there are so many people hanging around Mr. President, giving him a rosy picture of what the country is, which it is not. And we felt that we have no duty to do that. Indeed, we have the obligation to help him to appreciate the reality of the situation in which we find ourselves. And that is the reality that we painted, which I know is not the kind of thing that he wanted to hear. And the reply shows very clear.
I'm concerned that your cross is going over your microphone.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry,
Yeah,
go on.
Yeah. And you can see his reply. We left that hall, both sides, knowing that, well, we said what we had to say. He said what he had to say.
So was it a frosty meeting then? Would you describe it as fairly frosty? Because, I mean, many Nigerians have become accustomed to polite meetings between religious leaders and political leaders.
When the nation is bleeding, you can't expect a polite meeting with the head of state. We need to let him know. And his reply is that the nation is not bleeding. We told him our economy is not helping our poor people. He told us the economy is doing fine. Practically speaking, he told us quite clearly that he did not agree with us. Again, I said, we're not surprised. We didn't expect him to agree with us. We have done our duty. We have delivered our message. And we have a feeling that somehow along the line, somebody will show him a few of the things we said.
But in terms of, if you like, your immediate observations, you left the presidential villa believing that the president did not actually really I mean, hear your concerns. He listened to them, but he didn't actually hear them.
He heard it, and he tried to tell us that he heard us, which is precisely why he replied the way he replied. Replied to the points we raised, but and disagreed with them. So he must have heard it. The only question now is this disagreement his final position, or will there be people around him whose job it is to draw his attention that these guys who came here in white garments, they have not made any personal requests for oil wells or, or any particular personal things. Maybe we should listen to what they are saying. I think we believe one of the problems within our government right now is there are not too many people telling him the truth, which is a pity. We need to have whether in terms of economy or in terms of insecurity, and above all, the area of political climate.
Well, let me come to that political climate, because the Catholic Bishops' Conference warned against what it described as the creeping danger of a one-party dominant state. What was the president's response to that? Because his party, the APC, argues that if opposition parties are weak or fragmented, that is simply politics at work, and they shouldn't be concerned if their party becomes overwhelmingly dominant. I mean, that's a political advantage for them, not through their own making.
The position of Mr. President came very clearly in that statement that he made. In politics, all is fair. Is that true? If that is what politics is, that in politics everything can be done, provided you win election.
Well, clearly that's not correct.
That is not
correct. If that is what was said, then it is certainly not correct.
That is not.
There is
we heard it.
There is propriety in everything, and there ought to.
And that is what we are worried about. We are worried about the fact that we see clearly that our government is bent on winning by all means. And unfortunately, they have a lot of means at their disposal to win. And they are deploying all those means in a way that eventually, even if we had a free and fair election, the votes of the people count. But we gave two warnings.
Right.
We gave two warnings. The one you mentioned. I'm trying to remember now. But the second one is that if we do not rearrange our election system to make sure the elections are really free, fair, and credible, it can lead to difficulties.
Right. I mean, you talked about the dominance of a one-party state.
Okay, yes.
And then
we want that the country doesn't gain anything by a one-party state in a so-called democracy. There's nothing. Of course, we are not expecting Mr. President to help the opposition to defeat him. No. But the point we are raising is that even though the president has all the powers of incumbency, he is in the election, he is a candidate like any other. He is a candidate like any other. And that is why we call our electoral commission independent. Now, there are doubts in some quarters about how independent this electoral commission
But he talked about the electoral commission.
He said so.
He said it was independent.
He says so. But like we also said, words are not enough.
Yeah, but his point was that it is independent to the extent that, according to him, he's not interfering in the matter. Now, whether the INEC itself decides that because they basically are working under the executive that's in power, that they're going to do the things that they think will help that executive. I mean, I suppose his point is that that's not his making. In other words, that the key point here is whether he himself is interfering in the process, and his argument is that he's not.
Well, the Nigerian political system, the way it is now constructed, precisely is leading to a situation where the INEC cannot be independent. The chairman and all the members, all the commissioners have been appointed by the president.
Yes, it does raise eyebrows,
Now,
doesn't it?
and the idea, the presumption is that Mr. President will appoint independent, impartial, wonderful people. But when we on ground, we see that all of them are not only politicians but members of his party, and which means we have a situation here of what in our religion.
Well, they argue that, I mean, they're not members. They're not members of his party. They're simply maybe people who some argue maybe sympathize with them, but they're not actually members. I mean, the INEC chairman is clearly
until we find a system where the membership of the Electoral Commission is put together not by Mr. President, but by a truly independent entity.
Yeah, that would remove the doubts.
And that is not an impossible thing to do. It's done elsewhere. We could do it if we wanted to do it. And whether our present president is in the mood to go that direction, I don't know.
Now, you reminded President Tinubu that he fought for democracy during military rule and suggested that strengthening democratic institutions could become his greatest legacy. What was his reaction to you effectively telling him that this could be a defining moment for his presidency?
Well, I cannot say I looked at his face at that particular
right.
I can't say because during most of the time that they were reading, I was very, very attentive on myself.
Right.
We only looked at. We are hoping that that kind of statement challenges him. That you have a reputation to be a Democrat. You can't, under your watch our democratic structures disintegrate.
Right. But he didn't respond to that specific thing.
Well, we believe, can I say here, silence is consent, that he agrees to, he must agree with what we said there. How he will do it, we don't know. We still have this problem in Nigeria, how incumbents can allow a free and fair playground in elections. We still have that problem. And whereas we know that in those democratic places that we always look up to, it is a normal thing that we have alternation of one party after the other. And during elections, the onus of proofing to the electorate always lies on the incumbent party to prove that we have done well. Here in Nigeria, is the other way around. The other way around, if you are not in power, you just have no way to even move. And it just means that we just continue, and we're going to continue like that. I think we have done our duty. I have the feeling that somehow there are people around him. They may not change everything overnight. But I hope nobody thought that any political party is sending us. There's no way any political party can gather that kind of group together.
I don't think they thought that.
From different parts.
I'd be astonished.
From different parts of Nigeria, right. Yes. It isn't as if bishops haven't got their own different political feelings. So we do have
of course
differences.
They do,
we do have differences. But when it comes to what is important for Nigeria, right. When it comes to our existence, when it comes to the life of our people, we are united. We are united that we deserve more than what we are getting now. And that therefore, when the government keeps congratulating itself, we feel that this is misplaced.